I'm not a ranger yet, but I will be in the future.
Once a ranger,
Always a ranger.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Once a Ranger. I'm joined with Nav and Akil and Minhas, and today we're going to be talking about Doomsday Part 1 and 2. And Nav has some interesting facts about this episode before we get into it. Do you want to take it away, Nav?
Sure. So, this episode was originally written as the series finale, with the original ending showing the Rangers storming Rita's palace and sealing her, Goldar, Scorpina, Babu, Squat, and Finster inside a jar, as in the finale of the Super Sentai. But instead, they have retreated back to the moon along with the palace. Yeah.
Why did they did it say why they decided not to do that?
I don't know. I haven't looked that far. My guess is just the show was too successful for them to stop.
Right. I was wondering why they brought the palace to Earth. I thought that was a weird thing to just be like, oh, we need the palace to be close to this sword so that it can power up.
Right. Yeah. I think because the idea was going to be that the Rangers would storm the palace, so they need to be like close as opposed to like going to space.
Right.
But then they kept that in, and I guess just because it was easier to use the Sentai footage at that point, versus like trying to rewrite around it. I don't know.
But after the palace came to Earth, when Rita, or I guess it was Goldar, was summoning the monster, the magic laser beam still came from the moon.
Right.
Yeah.
They didn't, I think like the laser is on the moon. It's like Bluetooth connected to her wand. And then
That's better than my thought, is that they came down to Earth and Goldar had to go back, shoot the laser, then come back.
The laser and come back.
I also found it interesting. Sorry.
No, go ahead. What'd you find interesting?
I find it interesting that they would switch between calling it a monster and a Zord. Like it was like, I mean, maybe they didn't call it a Zord, but I think in the description of the episode it says like they summoned their own Zord, or like Goldar.
They do call it a Zord a couple of times, yeah.
But then they also
Goldar's
refer to it
Zord,
as a monster. Yeah. So I'm just like, is it both? I'm confused.
Yeah.
I don't know. Sorry, go ahead.
They kind of laid the groundwork for this, was it 2 or 3 episodes ago? With Cardiatron, because that's kind of like a monster Zord. It's a monster with somebody inside helping it out. So now we have another like full monster Zord.
I like how you're like this is done on purpose with intention. Cardiotron.
Yes,
okay, the precursor to this Cyclops.
Yeah, they set it up, they paid it off.
Yeah, but like he had full like actual controls in front of him, like it was not like just a being inside another being.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean it technically is. Some of them are controls, right? Oh no, yeah, no, you're right. The Zords are controls and stuff, but being inside of another being is the monster. I got confused. Totally following what you're saying.
Oh, good.
But if this was the season finale, I think it kind of is lackluster. Maybe that ending would have made it not as lackluster. The stakes of this episode were not that high. It wasn't like, it was very central to this one city. And like it's like and like not that it's not important, the people of Angel Grove, but I feel like it's not as detrimental as you're trying to make it seem.
Yeah, I think teleporting all of the citizens of Angel Grove away sort of lowered the stakes a bit.
Yeah.
So because now no one's in danger. Well, they're in like wherever they ended up, but they're not in the danger of the monsters and the Zords or anything.
Right. They're not where the collateral is. How considerate of Rita Repulsa to take away all of the citizens.
Yeah. On top of that, they don't show like the citizens. Like in other scenarios where citizens get taken or kidnapped, you see them at times. So there's also that like emotional weight behind like, oh, these are, obviously it's not like they're being tortured or anything, but like Goldar will jump at them and scare them or whatever. Just like you get to see their fear, and we got none of that. It was just they're gone.
Yeah, that actually is a really good point, and that I think that really is also why the stakes felt so low because we just hear the Rangers going, "Oh, we're stressed, we're stressed, we're stressed," but we don't see like why they're stressed out at all. It's just interesting.
Yeah.
Again, it makes sense when you say it's the season finale as well, actually, enough because the fight there was a lot going on in the fight scenes. Story-wise, there wasn't a lot going on here. But so and the Power Rangers, they make their money from these fight scenes and their Zords and whatnot. So there was like a lot going on with the fight scenes. And I'm not sure if it was too cohesive, but that I'm like, this is like a finale worth of fight. I'm like, this when I was saying the stakes are low, I felt like this is like an unproportional response to a low stake fight. Right? I'm like, we're putting our whole everything, all our cavalry into this fight.
Yeah.
Yeah, because Zordon said, like, in order to defeat the face in the sky, I guess, or the Zord monster, I forget which one, you need to switch up your fighting styles or switch up your fighting modes.
The Zord.
And so that means, like, they need to bring out every single Zord, every single Megazord, every single Dragon Zord, every single weapon. They need to bring out all the toys because that's how they defeat this monster.
Yeah, and I liked that a lot. I'm like, dude, this is epic for something that is not that epic as everything else. But like this was a good fight. I think that's like the strongest part of these two episodes. Because like otherwise, I think Nev and I were having a very mini brief down before being like, we don't have a lot of notes of what's going on in this episode because it just is. I'm not gonna say lackluster, but it just kind of is lackluster. They start off in the school as per usual. They're reading these articles about Power Ranger Day. And not much really happens. But we do have a note of Tommy finally.
Yes.
Yes.
A very happy Tommy.
Yes. His life seems significantly improved that he's not a Power Ranger. He's just like now things are good.
Yeah. But also, like, when the Power Rangers were walking to the stage at the end, they all like shook Tommy's hand and gave him that nod and didn't address a single other person.
Right?
Which is very suspicious. Not even the kids who like love the Power Rangers. They could have been like fist bumps or something. No, just Tommy and then the stage.
Yeah.
They should have just swarmed. The crowd should have just swarmed Tommy and been like, "How do you know the Power Rangers?
Right? They're
Why
like,
are you the person that the Power Rangers know?"
Yeah, that's so funny. I actually wrote that in my notes as well. I'm like, everyone watching this interaction, I would be so suspicious if I was like some person in the crowd. I'd be like, does that guy know them or something? Like, the theories would go wild. Luckily, there's no social media at that time. They're not just like, like, do you see this guy?
Phone footage of Tommy and the Power Rangers just dapping it up.
But it's funny that you mentioned Akil. They didn't even talk to the kids and whatnot. That's hilarious.
Yeah.
But
also,
sorry, go ahead.
There's no recognition of Tommy in the Power Rangers Day. Like, there's no recognition of Green Ranger.
Yeah.
On that little photo booth, there was no Green Ranger. On the signs, there was no Green Ranger. Like, and then here's this guy that's best friends with the Power Rangers wearing all green, multiple layers of green.
Yeah. Again, if I were in that world, I would just think they're fanboys. Like, I'd be like, it's too obvious for it to be real.
It's the Superman conundrum. I get it.
Yeah, I would no way think that like the kids who are wearing the colors all the time would be. I'd be like, oh yeah, they're making it their personality.
Like, I'm on that page too, but when the green Power Ranger isn't there, but a guy in green is dabbing up the rest of the Power Rangers, that's when my red flags start to go off.
Yeah, I mean, fair enough. It's like this is suspicious, but honestly, like, you're right about none of the merch being there, and I feel kind of bad. You kind of wonder like how in universe they think about the Green Ranger, and I think about it a lot because Tommy doesn't do anything as a Green Ranger. He just shows up to summon the Zord, so it does make sense that the rest of the people don't really know too much about him.
Yeah,
because he doesn't actively fight.
Yeah,
he like stands on a building, like, so a lot of people don't really see what he's doing.
Yeah. The Power Rangers are saving the city, and there's a guy standing on a building playing a flute.
Yeah. Like, well, it's funny because I think I mentioned in the past, like, what was even the point of Tommy? And I feel bad saying that, like, because he does become one of the biggest Power Rangers. But at this point, we didn't know that. And when he leaves, the Power Rangers aren't like weaker for it. They're not even like not much weaker for it, even. Like Jason completely absorbed Tommy's role without it being too detrimental.
Yeah. Yeah. It was, yeah. I also just found it interesting that they were like, Kimberly was like, hey, where's Tommy? And Trini just made something like, oh, maybe it's too hard for him to be around here. But then he shows up at the end anyway. I was just like, okay, there's no need for this little conversation to have happened. If he just showed up randomly, that would have worked fine. You didn't need to like address that he's not there. Only to have
like that they did that. I thought it was cute, right?
Yeah, I mean, I said that I didn't like it, but it's just like it was like, okay, and then he's just there. Clearly, he's not bothered. Like he's totally fine and happy to support his friends as he should. But it was just interesting. Like apparently they don't talk to him during this time because they have no clue.
Like, if you're not Power Rangers, we can't be friends anymore. You can't sit with us.
They also didn't talk to him while he was a Power Ranger. So
that's true.
That's not totally true.
Tommy didn't want to. He's like, guys, I gotta go.
He's just an introvert, guys. He doesn't hang out. He doesn't clean up. He doesn't do these things.
All he does is karate.
All he does is karate.
But Zach does have other friends, and I noted that actually in this episode. Where like you'll notice that he's the only one really talking to other people, and not just Angela. Like he'll like in the beginning when he's not with them originally when they're reading the newspaper, and he shows up and he like high fives a random person and he's like, how's it going, whatever. Then he turns to the Rangers and he's like, oh hey guys. So I feel like Zach actually has an active social life away from the core group as well. And Zach's story is actually really funny as well because we see a lot more of Angela. She's a recurring love interest for Zach. And she's like, oh, well, if you were a Power Ranger, I would date you. And he's like, all right, great. It's time to morph. But Zach, I'm sorry, my love. You can't date Angela. Like she thinks you're two different people.
Yeah, I was wondering about that too. He was like so ready to morph. And like they can't. Well, they do this in the reunion, but right now they can't take off their helmets while they're morphed. So unless Angela is like watching all of them morph at the same time, she wouldn't know that they're the same person.
No, and he can't tell her even. Like it's like one of the core parts of being a Power Rangers at this point is like keep your identity a secret.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, in episode 1 they say that. Yeah.
I completely forgot about that.
Yeah, because like they don't ever really talk about it, but that's why they're kind of all like tee-heeing around and seeing it on the news, and they're like, oh, those Rangers are really funny. Just like little like snide comments here and there. Even in this episode, it's like, I just have a feeling that the Rangers are going to show up. And they even said we can't morph right away because then they'll like be suspicious.
Yeah.
Right? So they were kind of like nods to that in this episode as well.
Yeah, which I guess it makes using that logic or like seeing that scene, I think it applies. You can apply that to like the whole show, right? So it's like they always make that effort to not be so like obviously, just like absent, I guess. Maybe. I mean, a lot of the times it shows us that, so I don't know, but I guess they do sometimes think about it.
Yeah, once in a while. That's why actually when Lightspeed Rescue first came out as a child, I was so shook that everybody knew who the Rangers were. I was like, what do you mean? This is not that's supposed to happen. Carter, stop telling everyone you're the Red Ranger. You can't do that. You can't do that.
I never understood why they kept it hidden in Lost Galaxy. Like, again, this is the post-Zordon era, so those rules technically don't, like, no one gave them this rule, right? Like, all the other Rangers were, the rules were given to them by Zordon until in space, but I get it. Like, most of them are still just following. But, like, Lost Galaxy is a totally different era, so I was just like, why can't they tell, like, whatever, the lieutenant that they're... I don't know. It was just a weird thing they kept secret for, I don't know, safety, I guess, but...
I think it just because, like, they had that formula for so long, they were kind of too afraid to deviate away from it. Sure. But then when Lightspeed happened, they're kind of like, you know what, like these guys are heroes already, like outside of their like world. I think it just makes sense that everyone knows what they're doing. Like, how is he going to be a firefighter and a Red Ranger?
Right.
Like, I think it might be too much for him.
And I think
No, literally that was
Oh.
my conclusion.
Yeah, I was gonna say, and I think it just makes sense that they're literally public service, like they're civil servants, right? Even as Rangers, like this organization, whether people know about it or not, the Rangers are understood, Lightspeed Rescue Rangers are understood to be civil servants, right? So, like, why not, let people know who you are? So there's that, like, familiarity and trust.
Yes. Yeah, and that's why Carter Grayson also, I think it allowed him to be one of the more phenomenal Red Rangers, like in mine and your opinions, the best Red Ranger. He really had the full opportunity to kind of showcase his talents, not as like even as a fighter, but as a leader and as a compassionate member of society. Really, because like there's a lot of episodes with like where children just kind of look up to Carter as well, and he's like always interacting with them in this kind of like positive light.
Yeah.
Oh, he's so good. I love Carter.
I do think it's pretty interesting. Like even in the Once and Always, sorry. Like they still adhere to those rules or try to. Like remember Billy and Zach are arguing about like because Zach wanted to tell Trini's daughter what happened, and Billy's like we can't do that, and I was just like. Okay, I guess. I mean, Zordon's not here anymore. Like, you don't have to. Yeah, but I guess it's preserving that, custom or whatever you want to call it. I just find it interesting of, like, how, like, they are very strict about that. Like, these Rangers, even all these years later, it's just like, this is the rule. These are the rules, and we're not going to evolve from them. So,
yeah, and it is interesting that you say that as well, because the Lightspeed Rescue Rangers are within this universe. They're not a part of the AU universe of Power Rangers. So within this universe, you already have some Rangers that kind of have revealed their identities, and no one else does. So I'm not sure why they're so willing to keep holding on to that, but I feel like maybe they thought that of an exception.
Yeah.
I don't know, because the AU ones are their own thing. They can do whatever they want. They follow their own rules and whatnot. But even then, like I think in RPM, nobody knew who they were. Right? If I'm remembering correctly.
I don't know. They tend to, because they mostly fight when there's attacks, like in Corinth, and they openly morph. It's not like they really hide it. So, I mean, they're not like going on telling. No, they do a whole. No, because they do a whole interview with children. Like the children get to ask them questions. Remember?
Was that this one? I
think
that
was
Dino.
in RPM. No, in RPM they have a bunch of children ask the Power Rangers questions, and they're in like their civilian clothes or whatever, wearing their jackets. But
okay.
But like, there's a
I
little
feel
kid
like
who's
they
like,
had that in Dino Charge, because I remember they were talking about that. No, that was RPM. You're right, because of the accent. They were talking about the accent. That was the thing that was like.
Yeah.
But for some reason, I thought that was Dino Charge. Yeah. But no, you're right. Yeah, the spandex. Yeah. No, you're right. Okay, so that makes sense. Sense.
But about these episodes, I wanted to get back to your point of low stakes, because every other multi-parter that we've had so far, in my opinion, have actually had like weight and intrigue behind them. Like we just saw the Green Candle one a couple of weeks ago, and they had those moments of like just dire consequences and everything. And in this one, it just felt like there was always something. Like they explained away something. So like Titanus gets like pulled into the ground by I think Rita. That's what it seemed. But then they were like, "Oh, we just had to go away to like recharge." I was like, "Wait, no, you didn't."
Zords dissolved,
Yeah.
And they're like, "Oh yeah, don't worry, they're not actually dead."
Yeah, we did that on purpose.
Yeah.
That really is low stakes. And it's funny because, again, spoiler, Akil, the Zords they have the capability to be destroyed. We've seen them get destroyed later.
Yeah,
but
we've already seen them get destroyed.
But
they got destroyed already once.
They get more destroyed.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like severe destruction that can happen to Zords in various seasons.
Okay.
They get like more destroyed, and they don't. That like disassemble thing didn't happen later.
Yeah, did not at all.
Well, because obviously Billy overrode that programming in this episode, so it doesn't have it again.
Maybe, I don't even know. I was just like, and then later on, like the communicators aren't working. I don't know why actually. Like there was no. They gave a reason. It was like, oh, Rita, but I was like, but she didn't do anything. She didn't like cast a spell as far as we knew. So anyway, the communicators aren't working. They go to Billy's garage. Goldar even shows up, but then he taunts them verbally, but he doesn't do anything. And then they're just like, "Oh, I fixed it. Let's go." And I was like, "What is the point of this?"
That scene was the funniest scene in this whole two-parter. Honestly, like I think that was my favorite scene because it didn't make any sense. First of all, it was so silly. They're like in Billy's garage, right? It's like the image of like Goldar just standing there in Billy's garage was the funniest thing to me. Next to this like arcade machine that's just on the lawn, not connected to anything. It's just arcade machine, just like standing there like this, and Goldar's just like standing next to it. And like Goldar does nothing when the Rangers try to leave. He doesn't do anything. He's just standing there and he's like looking at them. Like, Goldar, why are you the one leading this mission? We have seen over and over again, you're not good at this. It's time to retire, my guy.
He went down to finish them himself, and he just doesn't. We've seen it before. He doesn't know how to finish them off.
He doesn't.
Yeah.
He has so many opportunities, and he never follows through.
Even when he was in Cyclopsis, when he was like controlling he had moments, and he like knocked them down, and then instead of like slashing them with a sword, he just stomps on them. I was like, "You have a sword, my dude. They're on the ground. Strike them."
Goldar is not good at his job.
No.
He is no, but he's so passionate about it. Yeah. He's just like, he's the one who's always like, "Guys, we gotta go, 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 go." He has the spirit. He's the spirit of the team.
Yeah. Also,
so funny.
Another like a lack of I don't know if it's it's just weird. They brought Lokar back, the big floating head.
Yes.
Was in a previous episode. And then they're just like, "Oh, well, now he's gonna attack as if he's like this really all-powerful monster." I was just like, "What is going on here?"
He didn't do anything.
Yeah.
He just was there. Apparently he's there to like recreate the Cyclops' Zord.
Right.
We don't see it happen. I think his presence just like allows Cyclops to come back or something.
He's literally there for moral support.
Yeah. Yeah, he's the bard of the of Rita's little group there. There was also something else funny that I noted about Rita coming to Earth. So so it's like a mix of magic and science as we've seen in the past, but she has like her files in a data bank that's connected to her palace that Alpha can reach into.
I knew you were gonna bring that up because I wrote that down too, and Zoran was like, "Her files of spells and secrets." I was like, "What do you mean her files? Where does she keep this?" Like...
Her files, not even like a spell book or anything. She has them in like a little folder on her desktop.
Oh, I was thinking like an actual file cabinet.
Filing, yeah.
I thought that's what the office building that was attached to the bottom of her palace was.
That's why she had to come to Earth to actually get access to her files.
Well, that's what I thought, because when her palace is on Earth, like the visual of it, it's on top of an office building.
Right.
Yeah.
Which is like great. Rita doesn't touch the ground. That makes sense. But she came down with the office building. It was already attached to her palace.
She's like a Diglett or something. The palace is like a Diglett. It's like, and then there's like so much going on underneath.
Yeah. There's like a 20-story office building filled with spells and monster clay.
All of them are like different levels. Yeah, monster clay. Just imagine the bureaucracy of like Rita's palace.
Yeah. Sends like a random putty. Go to floor 6 for this spell. Bring me a pound of clay for more putty. Like,
that's why Spinster is never attacking the Power Rangers, never leaving the palace. He has to deal with all of that paperwork, all of that filing.
He's the manager. I like in my head, he's the manager of all those buildings because he's the only one who really like seems like to be like working. Everyone else is kind of just like scheming. And like complaining. So I feel like Finster is like the actual like management where he does like the actual floor manager, and like all of them are higher up management that like don't do anything.
No, it's like Rita is like the CEO. Finster is like the manager that actually organizes stuff. And the other three are just like Nepo babies that mess around all the time.
Right.
Basically.
How did Goldar get this job? Goldar, you're not good at it.
But then you're right, because Zordon or Alpha says something about like accessing her data bank. So I guess it's not a physical, as hilarious as it would be,
digitized. Yeah, what's in that building?
This was before the cloud existed, so all her servers are in there.
All her servers. Just
all her morphing grid servers have all of her different
or
spells.
she has like a data bank and every like physical files as well.
Yeah.
Like just like stacked in
like
storage.
We've seen her use like books and pages and stuff, so that's got to go somewhere.
True. I mean, I guess that makes sense. Those are the 90s,
her magic eggs.
Yeah.
Technology
and
is
it
still
is the
limited.
90s. Their data banks are like little hard drives. They're like huge, like huge computers, like in walls.
I guess while she was getting the factory all the way back in like episode 2, she also like, hoarded a bunch of data banks and servers, and she's just like, I'm gonna need this.
Humans, they got that good technology.
10,000 years of spells. I'm gonna need a lot of space.
At least we know what she's doing in her like she's not like constantly watching the Power Rangers. She's also like putting her hard drives on backup and stuff like that.
She's not doing any of that. She's got.
She's not. Finster's doing that.
Finster's doing it.
She's just looking at her weird telescope, watching these children constantly.
Yeah, she's like, Finster, how do you turn this into a PDF? He just like doesn't know what to do.
Finster, what's PC load letter?
Maybe that's why she so often like forgets a lot, because she'll always just be like, "Oh, this is my greatest plan yet," but I'm like, why didn't you do that like 18 episodes ago? Maybe there's so much that she could do, she just doesn't know, and then like Finster comes across something and she's like, oh, okay, now I'll enact this amazing plan where I can actually the candle, I forgot that was in the basement of my office building.
Or this monster that's been sitting in storage for 10,000 years apparently.
Right, this monster Zord
apparently underground too, by the way. Like just on Earth, underground, not on the moon, not in space, on Earth.
Not even in that office building.
He'll be the size of that office building. The whole office building would just be him in there. That was a funny image though, seeing it come down and out of like the Tokyo City like that, or Angel Grove in this way. It was like hilarious.
Yeah, it was so weird. Way too much dirt in that explosion. When it first came down, it just covered the whole city in dirt.
I'll never recover from this. We were like some citizens of Angel Grove. Thank God that I was warped into a different dimension and deal with this.
Yeah.
But I think also, I think we do have to take a moment to talk about Bulk and Skull, because now they always have their own little side thing going on. They did not bully anyone this time, Akil, not even once, and people were already immediately ready to laugh at them. They showed up and people were like, get ready to laugh. I
had that in my notes too, because like when they're doing their little performance thing, like everyone is immediately laughing, but costumes were the most elaborate costumes we've seen so far.
Yeah.
And their superpowers were like choreographed. Like I would expect them to be like stumbling over each other, and eventually they did that. But at the beginning, the first like half dozen moves were choreographed. They weren't hitting each other. It was like well done. And people were laughing at them.
For what reason? They're putting their whole heart into this. And honestly, like I would have just like, again, I don't know because it didn't happen in real life. I would have just assumed it was kind of like a little like something set up by the city as performance.
Yeah.
Right? Because these two people show up. They're like, we're the city's greatest heroes, blah, blah, blah. Like just like it sounded like a scripted thing. And they're like names are like their real names, like Bulkster and the Skull, whatever. They're
Super Skull Boy
Super
Wonderful.
Skull. Yeah. I love that. Yeah, I did write in the notes. I'm like, wow, these synchronized moves are like really good. They're not even doing anything really too silly at this point.
Yeah.
That deserved so much laughter. I feel bad for them at this point. I'm just kind of like, guys, these guys are just trying to exist, man.
Yeah. I think you're right. If I was there, I'd definitely assume that it was like part of the show that they were up there, especially because when they were talking about it at the beginning, the mayor said that she hoped the Power Rangers would show up. Like they
Right.
had no plan for the Power Rangers to actually show up.
Yeah.
So this is what you plan because the Power Rangers aren't going to show up because there's no
Right.
monsters. Why would they show up?
Literally. Yeah. You don't know. How did you hope? Do they know about Power Ranger Day? Did you put like, hey, maybe Power Rangers, it would be great if you showed up, or like,
No. We're
what
gonna
did you
put
do?
one copy of one newspaper in the high school and hope that the Power Rangers show up.
Yeah, hope it falls into the right hands.
I'm sure.
But yeah, and then they didn't have any other like entertainment or anything. So yeah, it would make sense to have these like fun little quippy things.
Yeah. I mean, they had their photo booth, which was like that weird teal box with 4 pictures of the Power Rangers on it.
Right.
I didn't know what that was.
I actually thought that gag was supposed to have like pictures come out of like Vulcan Skull kind of being silly in there. Like I'm like that would be a nice little like gag because that's silly. But that didn't happen. And then they just went on stage and like
threw the clothes and then went on stage in very nice costumes.
Yeah, it looked really good. I love how like he had out a little thing for his ponytail bulk. He's like, it's very important. Tommy needs that in his helmet. Have like a little like little Tommy size ponytail hole.
Yeah.
But in terms of visuals of this episode too, speaking of like how nice their costumes were, there was a lot of funny stuff like in terms of the visuals of this episode. Like obviously we noted that the castle coming down looked funny, but also Titanus getting sucked into the sand pit. I laughed so hard. I'm like, this is so good because it's like it looks so cute, like this little tiny toy getting like sucked into the pit, and then like when they're trying, the Rangers like grabbing it by its neck and trying to like pull it out, and I'm like, does this hurt the sword? Like I don't know how do they have feelings or stuff, but he's like holding on to Titanus from the neck and like trying to pull it out of the hole, and then just let it get sucked in. It was such a funny visual. I felt so bad.
Yeah, it was a interesting visual. It was I was like, I don't know what's going on here. It's just like very, you could, I don't know, to me it felt like they actually had like the toy there, right? Like it wasn't, so yeah, it was interesting.
It was because it was the toy when they sucked it into the ground, but then it cut to like not the toy when when it's interacting with the Zord.
Right.
So it was kind of like this interesting splicing of the two. But that's what we love about Power Rangers, is that they do stuff like that. It is the heart of Power Rangers is like these random people in Zord costumes and toy versions of stuff.
True. Yeah. Like I said, I didn't have too many notes, just like little things, but I think the biggest thing for me was the end of like the fact that Zordon once again gave them this. Also was like knowing that it's supposed to be the finale, like it gave all the vibes of finale. Like you said, the battle was really like intense and epic, even though the stakes weren't like crazy, but just like the feeling of it all, of them going to the extreme of every Zord, every combination, every, formation. And then Zordon once again giving them the choice to like continue being Rangers or not. I thought that was really interesting. It's not something I remembered about this episode. So I was like, oh wow, that is really just like unexpected, I guess, especially this early in like the series. Like I could see that later on for sure. I don't even know if they ever do that later on. Maybe at season finales, but like it was just really interesting to have that be a scene.
Yeah. I actually made a note of that as well, because I was like, why do they need to choose again? And so like, why did Zordon say like that? Why didn't Zordon be like, hey, you guys did a lot today. It was a lot. I can understand why this is so like challenging for you, and we can't ask any more of you. Do you still want to like continue doing this? Right? Is it too much of a burden? Instead he's like, all right, now it's time for you to choose again. And they're like, what do you mean? Of course they're like, what do you mean? It's like, what do you mean it's time for us to choose again? And they just like defeated, and they're like, yeah, you know what, like we're good to do it. And I like that they added that enough. It was a nice little cute thing. I just thought it was out of place the way it was framed. But Zordon does that a lot. He's always like, right now it's this, good job guys, like there's this new thing. here it is, and he doesn't really explain why he's like, this is the time to do a certain thing. But yeah, it was definitely kind of like its own season finale-esque thing. There's another note I made there as well. I also don't have a lot of notes on this episode, so I think this actual whole episode is going to be very short. But the last note I made was, I think it's like one of the very first times the American have their own costumes, own ranger costumes, because they're interacting with the kids in the park, actually. So, and you can actually see the difference in the American costumes and the Japanese costumes, especially within the necklines. And the only reason I noted that, oh, hey, I think this is American costumes, because I was like looking at them like, why do these rangers look kind of funny? Like they're like there's something off about their neckline and the way that the helmet and the neck, it was like crumpled almost. Then I realized, oh my God, they're in person with these people. They're interacting with Tommy. They're like shaking their hands and stuff. So this is like the first time we're really seeing like the Americas paid for these costumes and shot scenes in these costumes. Which is probably why they're like, we got to make more seasons because we paid money to make these costumes. Got to use them now.
I'm trying to think, is this actually the first time? Because I feel like there's been fight scenes and stuff that don't line up with the Japanese fight scenes.
Yeah, they have had times where they were like in costume with some of the like kids that they mentored or whatever, or got kidnapped or those things. So I'm not sure. I'd have to look that up. But
yeah.
But Minhas, you're right. It did. Like I noticed it too. It's the difference in costumes really stood out in this episode.
Yeah.
I noticed
the helmets were too small. I think.
I feel like they were too short. Like they ended too soon.
They ended too soon. Yeah. There's something about the neckline that was weird, and they kind of looked like uncomfortable when they were walking around. I mean, those costumes, like when I cosplay, they're not comfortable to walk around.
No, they don't look comfortable at all.
You can't see, and every time you breathe, it fogs up. And but it never looked so awkward when the other Rangers did it in any other episodes before now, even within this episode when it was just like the Japanese footage. But it never looked so awkward, as they looked like they were trying to hold up their heads almost.
Yeah.
Akil, did you have thoughts about the
I had
go ahead, whatever your thoughts are.
Yeah, I had thoughts about the ending.
Go ahead, say your thoughts about the ending.
I feel like knowing that the ending was supposed to be different and that they were supposed to like go to the moon and defeat Rita or capture Rita, I feel like that would make Zordon's speech make sense.
Yeah.
Because it was really out of place, because he said like you went above and beyond in your Call of Duty, which is they've done the same thing that they've done every episode,
right?
More or less. Like, sure, they did more of it, but not really.
Right. And the stakes are so low.
And the stakes were so low. And then when he asked them, like, if they still want to be Power Rangers, Billy says there are other villains and other crimes that they need to address. And my first thought is, what about Rita? You've only dealt with Rita so far. She's not going away.
Right.
But if the original plan was for her to go away, then yeah, that totally makes sense. It's time to like move away from Rita and save Angel Grove from other stuff.
Right.
Oh yeah, that's actually a good note. That's so funny. Yeah, that end scene seems so random.
It was, yeah. I think similar to I don't know, one of the other points we were talking about earlier, it was just like I think they filmed a bunch of things and then maybe the studio was like, actually we're gonna keep going. So they're like, shoot, now what do we do? Right. Okay, no one's really gonna care about the details of this conversation, so we'll just, have him talk about like making a choice again for whatever reason. Only us 30-year-olds that are watching this all these years later are gonna analyze it and be like, what other villains, Billy?
Yeah. And then so on top of that, in the autoplay, the next episode is titled Rita's something. So we know she comes back in the next episode.
Right. That's so funny. It's to what you were saying, of they're just kind of like, hey, what about if we didn't make this the season finale and made the same amount of episodes that we've already done for the rest until the next season finale? Like, we're just like barely past the midway point.
Yeah.
Are we?
The season finale. What if we did a lot more?
It's almost 60 episodes.
It's almost. I thought this was episode 40.
Right. So we're just past the midway.
Yeah,
you know?
we still have pretty much a whole season's worth of stuff to watch.
Still have 20 episodes to go.
Because the rest of the Power Ranger seasons are like 24, 25 episodes. Like that is that is the normal amount of seasons for it to happen.
So, is it? Novice confused.
No, I think in later seasons, but I think earlier on they're around 40 actually.
Okay.
Well, they started splitting it into two.
Right.
Right.
So that's
Mega
later,
Force,
right?
Power Rangers, Super Mega Force, right?
But that's much later. I'm saying like Space and like those seasons are, I think they're still like 40, but still 40 isn't crazy to me. But 60 is absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah. Eventually we'll have to stop making those jokes because we'll be in the normal parts. Oh no, even Zeo is 50 episodes. Woo. Oh, okay. That is, for me, Zeo seems like it was 2 seconds.
Yeah.
So I'm surprised it has 50 episodes, if I'm going to be honest.
Oh yeah.
I feel like Zeo feels to me like a fever dream. I feel like Zeo barely happened.
Yeah, I feel the same way. I'm like, I don't remember many episodes. I think by that point it was definitely like formulaic, so it was just like, all right, monster human issue, Zord battle, cool. This has been like that's season 4 of this now. So.
Right.
Yeah. We'll have plenty of time to revisit that after we finish the next 2 seasons of season 1.
Yeah.
That's so funny.
Exactly.
Yeah, this was definitely, I don't know if I would have been satisfied with this as an ending, but I guess if they did storm Rita's palace,
right,
maybe I would have been more satisfied with it as an ending.
I think that would have definitely had more of an impact, and I'm wondering if then maybe the Zords actually would have been maybe temporarily like out of commission, you know, like instead of them just like going away, maybe they would have gotten like severely damaged. So the Rangers are like, okay, well, the last thing we can do, the only thing we can do is like storm the palace and stop Rita. Like maybe, I don't know. This is me writing my own story.
Yeah, your own fan fiction.
Yeah.
Because it would make sense for it to be disintegrated like that and not it being a security thing. I feel like that was definitely added in after for it to like, again, lowering the stakes. Because when the swords disintegrate, I'm like, whoa, okay, right, we're getting into the good stuff. No, we're not. Psych. It's just the security system thing. But those stakes do come back in terms of like the Zords getting destroyed stakes. And they like this later, those stakes are really high. Like you feel stressed in those situations. In this one, I didn't feel stressed at all. Like I was not even slightly concerned. I was like, this is okay. And Power Rangers have stressed me out. Like I've been stressed for the Rangers at certain points. Even in the past, like the whole thing with Tommy, like I was stressed out for Tommy, but this one I was just kind of like, yeah, all right. They brought Tommy back for the season finale, and he's just like, okay, so they have like the kids that are dressed in almost the same colors as like the Rangers that they like. Same gender too, right? So then it's like, I like the girls, and Tommy's like, they're all awesome.
That's his secret.
That's my secret, Cap. They're all awesome.
Awesome.
But I feel like this is unless you have any, it looks like you're looking some stuff up. No, if you have any final thoughts or
yeah, I was just trying to see if there was any more information about anything. There's like some interesting facts, but nothing really special. So I was just like,
yeah, this was a very underwhelming 2-parter. I definitely thought I would have a lot more notes. My notes are like, I had to actually I had to watch it again because I'm like, did I miss something here? Because like nothing's happening. So I feel like this is a great way to like have this conclusion because we've gone over we scraped this episode to the bone. And yeah, I mean, TLDR, okay, it's an okay episode. Not great for a finale. Stakes way too low for and way too much reaction for such low stakes. But enjoyable fight scenes.
True.
Yeah, so at least there's that. It's not a total L. There's definitely have been worst episodes. Like I would think the egg one was like way worse than this. That egg episode is going to be in my mind forever. That one. Well, what was it that Billy said? I don't remember. But yeah, that egg episode is like the pinnacle of like worst episodes.
But it had so much lore.
I think we'll have to do that, or that might be a good idea of like once we do finish season 1, we do like our worst and best, or like favorite, least favorite episodes.
Yeah, the rankings. I think that's a good idea too for a special episode. But in the meantime, next week we'll do 3 more of back to regular base episodes. Until then, I'm Minhas. I'm joined with Nub and Akil, and we'll see you soon.
Once a Ranger,
Always a Ranger.